Welcome back to La Pausa. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. It is Champions League Tuesday. But before we get to that, we got a ton of action from this past weekend to recap. We've got doors opening, we've got doors closing, we've got controversies, and we've got some answers in Leicester City. Let's dive in. How much difference does 1 point make in the end results in the table? Well, let's talk to Arsenal in a month and find out. 1 point is all they got from Liverpool this past weekend thanks to a last-minute Bobby Firmino goal. But that 1 point could make all the difference. It could be just the opening Manchester City needs to sneak through and end up winning at the end of the season. Now, there's 8 games remaining for Arsenal, and they have a 6-point lead still, so it feels like they're still very much in control, except for 2 key variables. One is the fact that Manchester City has a game in hand, and they've won 8 games in a row. So if we can assume that they are going to win that game, depending on who it's against, that would really make this a 3-point lead. Those 3 points could be made up when Manchester City plays Arsenal later this year, and that is a game that is still on the schedule. So between the game in hand and the game against Arsenal, those 6 points, that differential is very much in their control. Manchester City doesn't have 8 games left, they have 9, and if they win out and the goal differential stays in their favor, which it most likely will, they would win the Premier League, which means Arsenal only getting a draw against Liverpool rather than a 3-point win makes Manchester City control their own destiny. And that's all a team can ask for, particularly a team that is in fantastic form and has won 8 straight. So Manchester City now controls their own destiny, which is exactly the position they want to be in and is absolutely not the position Arsenal wants to be in. Now, they can control their own destiny too by winning out and beating Manchester City, or maybe even a draw against Manchester City. So they do have a lot to say in this too. It's not like they have to sit back and just hope City loses. They do get a say in that. But this opened the door to make it an actual race. This was the tripping point that Manchester City and their supporters have been waiting for Arsenal. Now, 1 point in La Liga is not going to make that much difference because Barcelona has a 12-point lead, but they only got 1 point on Monday against Girona in what should have been an easy victory against a bottom-table team that would have all but locked up La Liga. And a lot of folks are out there saying, well, does this open the door for Real Madrid? It does not. It absolutely does not. La Liga has been locked up for quite some time. Is this the defining nail in the coffin that Barcelona fans were hoping for? Well, no, this was actually quite disappointing. And they've had a couple disappointing games in a row now, and it looks like they're sort of limping to a La Liga title. But I don't think they're going to care so long as they're wearing that crown and hoisting that trophy at the end of the year. They are 12 points up with almost no hurdles to overcome along the way. They've got Atletico Madrid, they've got a Real Sociedad up ahead of them, but really no tough competition on their schedule left. Most of the big stumbling points are gone, so there's really nothing in the way of them winning another La Liga title. Don't worry too much, Barcelona fans. I don't say that lightly. You've got bigger fish to fry. La Liga is probably in the bag for you. That same Arsenal-Liverpool game we mentioned earlier was not without controversy, although thankfully it was not a VAR controversy. But this happened when linesman Konstantin Katsidakis elbowed Andy Robertson in the head as Robertson was running past him. Now, you don't need my take on this. It's obviously ridiculous from an official. He should be suspended, probably never ref again. The only take I'm going to give you is that Roy Keane's an asshole for calling Andy Robertson a baby. Get that guy out of here. That's absolutely ridiculous. But what I do want to think about, and I don't know the answer to this, but I think it's worth looking at is this sort of thing a domino effect from what happened with Manchester United and Fulham in the FA Cup when Mitrovic shoved the official out of the way. Now, this is not some retaliation where the linesman said, oh, next guy that gets near me, I'm going to throw an elbow at him. No, I don't think it was anything like that. But I do wonder if officials are starting to get a little defensive and a little sensitive of players getting around them and crowding their personal space. I highly doubt an official said, I don't like Andy Robertson, I'm going to elbow him. Or I'm just going to throw a punch or swing at the next guy that comes near me. There's no chance that happened. But these guys might be getting a little trigger happy because there's so much in your face sort of bumping and shoving of officials these days, and the punishments have not been nearly severe enough. Hopefully that is changing. But there's more and more of this, and I feel like the refs are perhaps a little afraid out there. And so if you look at the video, it sort of looked like Robertson sort of came out of his periphery, and it was almost a defensive sort of elbow. No excuse whatsoever. Not excusing the behavior. Absolutely cannot happen as an official. You have to be better than that. But I do wonder if some of this is just getting a little trigger happy from all of the abuse that officials take these days, some of which is getting physical. So I wonder if we're going to see some more things like that if the various leagues don't step up and police these players. However, the refs need to be policed in just as strict, if not a more strict fashion. This ref should never be anywhere near the Premier League again, certainly not a Liverpool game, and I assume we'll hear something about that soon. But I do wonder if there's some sort of connection from what happened and what has happened in other situations and this type of event, because it's just such strange behavior from an official. Lastly, it looks like we finally got an answer to the Leicester City coaching search. After flirtations with a lot of other bigger names, the Foxes landed on Dean Smith, which is really interesting because he's a very experienced coach, and he's very experienced with relegation battles, but he's had a mixed bag in terms of success. At lower levels, he had some success with Walsall, keeping them up. He was with Brentford. He was not who got Brentford promoted, but he ended up getting the Aston Villa job and had success with them and got them promoted out of the Championship, but was not able to stay with them for very long. After they sold Jack Grealish, it sort of fell apart. He did not lead them well in the reinvestment period and got fired shortly thereafter. He was almost immediately hired by Norwich City last year in their relegation battle and did nothing to improve their chances. They went down to the Championship, and he has since gotten sacked at that job. So it's a mixed bag in terms of success in keeping teams up at their current level, particularly at the Premier League level, where he did not have success at all with Norwich. He's being hired as the interim coach, so supposedly there has not been a long-term commitment, so perhaps he is just the guy to try and keep Leicester City afloat, and if they just need somebody to light a fire under them for the next few games and try to get a few points and stay out of the mix there, then maybe he's the guy for that. But he's not a guy that wows you. He's not a guy that has had tremendous stints of success really at any level. Even his Aston Villa success was not particularly long sustained. And his track record on keeping teams promoted is a little bit of a mixed bag. So, Leicester City was denied by a few names, including American manager Jesse Marsch. And so you have to wonder who they were going to get, who they were choosing from for a mid-season relegation battle, when you really have to look at this and look at it as a championship job, right? They're sitting in 19th right now. There's no guarantee they stay up. If I'm a coach coming in as a full-time coach, I would want some reassurances that I was going to maintain my job if I went down. Jesse Marsch had to be thinking that. But then if that's the case, you have to look at it as though this is a championship level job, not a Premier League level job, because it's not like Leicester is fighting off relegation. They're currently smack dab in the middle of it, right? So if you're a coach, you can't be afraid of the relegation battle. A guy like Marsch, those are the only jobs he's going to get, Dean Smith as well. But it sure is different to come in the middle of it when you're behind the eight ball, as opposed to taking it on from the very start. And they're not getting that opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see if this works. I suppose a veteran manager who's been in it before is better than an interim assistant who's never done it, or an inexperienced type person. So I suppose they could have done worse. But this one doesn't wow me the way a Sean Dyche would, where he's gonna instill some toughness and light a fire into these guys. And no, maybe he's not the greatest manager long term, but in the short term, he's gonna get them a bounce. Dean Smith doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to instill a bounce here. So we will see how this one turns out, and if he is with Leicester City beyond this season. So what are we watching today? Well, this one's not tough. It's Champions League, and more Champions League, although I guess there's only 2 games. We got Benfica and Inter. We've got Manchester City and Bayern Munich. First leg of the quarterfinals. It's getting real. There's 8 teams left, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. We got a couple teams we thought would be back, still be around at this point, and we got a couple clubs that we did not think would be around, and we got one club, Chelsea, who we thought would be around, but but probably shouldn't be based on what they're doing in the Premier League. So it's wide open, it's entertaining, it's always good theater, and we can't wait to watch it. Thanks as always for joining us here on La Pausa at Pints and Punditry. Enjoy that Champions League action and stay tuned tomorrow. This is Total FIFA Career Mode.